In every era of conflict, someone dared to ask, what if we tried something different? From flying wings to rocket-powered spacecraft, the battlefield sky became a laboratory of insane ideas. Some brilliant, some disastrous, but all groundbreaking. These 5 experimental warplanes pushed the boundaries of physics, engineering, and common sense. Most never fired a shot, but they forever changed what flight could be. Subscribe for more military tech breakdowns. Let's dive in. Long before stealth was a buzzword, Northrop dreamed of a bomber with no fuselage, no tail, just wing. Enter the YB-49. This Cold War prototype looked like something out of science fiction, with a shape so radical it was invisible to early radar. But it wasn't just futuristic, it was unstable. With no onboard computer, controlling it was a nightmare in rough air. The tragic crash that killed test pilot Glenn Edwards, yes, that Edwards as in Edwards Air Force Base, sealed its fate. Still, decades later, its ghost re-emerged. The B-2 Spirit, it's basically the YB-49, perfected. Sometimes the future just needs to wait for the tech to catch up. Imagine riding a missile in a pressure suit at Mach 6, and trying to steer it. The Bell X-15 wasn't built to fight. It was built to discover what happens at hypersonic speeds. What's flight like at the edge of space? Strapped under a B-52 bomber, it would detach mid-air, ignite a rocket engine, and scream up past 300,000 feet. Pilots like Neil Armstrong, yes, the moon guy, flew this monster, but it was vicious. One test pilot, Michael Adams, lost control at Mach 5 and was killed when the aircraft disintegrated. The X-15 was dangerous, but every crash taught NASA lessons that shaped the Mercury and shuttle programs. It was a spaceship with wings, and for a moment it made pilots into astronauts. What if you removed the tail from a fighter jet? That's what the X-36 asked in the 1990s. The idea, less drag, less weight, more stealth. But without a tail, control is chaos. Unless you're using fly-by-wire tech and thrust vectoring. This little unmanned test plane was only 28% the size of a full fighter, but it was agile and shockingly stable. It proved that tailless fighters could work. But then came budget cuts and shifting priorities. Even though it never became a full-size jet, its DNA is in modern stealth fighters. Think of it as the prototype for the prototype. Russia's Su-47 Berkut looked more like an anime jet than a real aircraft. With wings bent forward like a bird of prey, it could outturn nearly anything in the sky. Forward-swept wings meant better agility at subsonic speeds and tight angles, but they also meant extreme structural stress. At high speeds, the wings wanted to twist off. To survive, it needed next-gen composite materials, expensive and experimental in the 90s. Only one was built. It flew, and flew well. But it was always a test bed, never a production fighter. Still, technologies from the Su-47 showed up in the Su-57 and shaped Russia's approach to stealth and agility. A warbird from the future that never went to war. The X-44 MANTA is like a fighter jet from a sci-fi film. No tail, no elevators, no rudder. It was designed to control flight entirely through vectored thrust. Every movement, pitch, yaw, roll, would come from how the engine directed its exhaust. This made it insanely stealthy and more fuel efficient. And it wasn't just a dream, it was based on F-22 airframe research. Lockheed even proposed building it, but the US Air Force went with the F-35 instead. Still, every bit of tech developed for the X-44 lives on in today's jets, and in secret labs working on 6th-gen aircraft. It never flew, but it helped shape the jets that do. These aircraft were born from imagination, funded by fear, and often buried by reality. Some were too early, some too expensive, and some were simply too wild for the world they entered. But they weren't failures. They were stepping stones. Each one taught engineers how to break the rules, rethink flight, and sometimes rewrite history. Which one do you think should have been built? Drop a comment. Subscribe for deep dives into aviation, warfare, and forgotten tech.